The challenge is for me to knit as many hats as I can, showing as many Corona bulky machine techniques before the end of December and to knit them into one long strip. One of the requests I've had is for cables, and I am delighted that they asked me this because I just adore cables. They are one of the main reasons I learned to knit, as a matter of fact. You're seeing my cable book scroll across the screen now. Because I love them so much, I have written quite a few, and there's a link to the page where they're for sale in the program notes. There's also a cabling chapter in the Answer Ladies Machine Knitting Notebook. The notebook comes in two forms. There's a mid-gauge book with 2 mid-gauge gauges and a bulky plus standard book. Both of them have the cabling chapter. The simple cable that we'll do today is very much like the simple ones in the Create a Cable chapter in the knitting notebooks. There is no reason, however, that Corona machines cannot do more elaborate cables. For this hat, I returned to a simple rolled brim. You may use any of the brims I've shown so far on a cabled hat. They're all quite appropriate. If you choose another one, subtract 8 rows from the total number of rows that I give you for the main portion of the hat, because brims other than the rolled one do add length to the hat. The rolled one really doesn't. I decided to make this one a baby hat, so I need fewer stitches, and therefore I can show you what to do if you want to continue knitting a strip but you want to change sizes. And that is drop an equal number of the waste yarn stitches off of each end of the work, leaving only the desired number. Later, I'll show you how to fix it back so you can continue with larger hats. But at the beginning of this video series, I promised that all the hats would be the same size, an 18-inch circumference with 72 stitches. So I'll actually just give you both sets of numbers in this pattern. This will be a baby hat and a child's hat. Depending on the size you want, work with 56 or 72 stitches. For the baby hat, we'll work 3 cables around the hat, and of course we want them evenly spaced. Each cable will take up 6 stitches. We're only going to cross 2 over 2, but we need a vertical column of purl stitches. We're actually going to use tucked purl stitches in order to set off the cables. So 18 of the total number of stitches in the whole project are involved in this cable. So for the baby hat, we will leave 7 stitches on each end of the work, unmessed with, they're just stockinette, and 12 stitches between each of the cables. The work on the larger hat will proceed in exactly the same way, but we'll leave 6 plain stockinette stitches on each end, 12 between each of 4 cables, and that will get them as evenly spaced as we can. Begin with any cast on you like and knit the 8-row rolled hem. Set row counter to 0, turn up to main stitch size, and knit 4 plain rows. Those rows are because the brim is going to roll up over part of the knitting, so it's pointless to cable there. Now count over to the first of the 6 needles involved in your cable columns and transfer that stitch to the next needle over. Then skip 4 and transfer the next one so that we've set off 4 stitches in the middle with an eyelet on either side. Then go over to the next position for a cable for your size and do the same thing all the way across. Experienced knitters will know that this isn't actually an essential step, but it makes it very easy to later ladder down and reform our purl stitches without risk of them running farther than we want them to. The cabling will occur every 4 rows from now on. I am bringing the needles all the way forward to knit my first row because after creating eyelets, it'll save a little bit of effort on the part of the carriage to do that. So I won't show you knitting anymore, just know that between every cable cross, there are 4 plain knitted rows. Before crossing the cable, we're going to drop all of the stitches that represent the same column where we made an eyelet. again setting off our center 4 stitches as a solo act. The point of this is to create an easy crossing space without putting stress on the needles when we cross our cables 2 stitches over 2 stitches. And later we can come back and fix these columns. We need to make purl stitches out of them anyway. Lift 2 stitches on one double prong tool and 2 on another double prong tool. And I'm a little clumsy here because I realized belatedly that I had picked up one 8mm rather than 9mm tool. And I'm going to make it work and then go get another one so that the whole rest of the project is a little smoother. Move over to the next cable position. Lift 2 stitches on one tool, 2 on another. Trade places with them. These are the first cables I've done on my Corona. And as you can see, I'm still perfecting the little twitch of the fingertips that most easily gets the stitches safely off the needles. This is a little bit different than it is working with a machine with gate pegs. By the end of the hat, I got there though, and you will too. Things to remember about cabling. For a project like this, it does not matter much whether you go right over left or left over right, but it matters very much that you be consistent throughout the project. One action will make the rope twist left, one makes it twist right. We don't normally care, but on this hat with 3 cables, it's usually best if they all twist the same direction and that each of the crosses be made the same every time. Otherwise, it won't really twist. It'll go back and forth. So 4 more rows and another cable cross. Continue working the cables until for the baby hat, 28 rows have been completed, and for the larger hat, 32 rows have been completed. Then knit 4 more rows. Do not make a cable cross, but drop the same stitches we've been dropping all along one more time and allow them to run. In fact, encourage them to run, because at this point we're going to use them to make our tucked purl column. Release the stitches and make sure they all have released all the way down to our eyelet. If you chose not to make an eyelet, you'll need to count down and make sure that you unravel the correct number of rows and don't let them run into the hem. Take the first rung of the ladder that was created after the transfer, pull it down behind the stitch below it, and begin latching up every other rung of the ladder. Slide the tool behind rung 1, grab rung 2, and pull it through. This does a couple of things. Having any purl column sets the cables apart from the main fabric nicely. But a tucked rib column does it even better than a plain all the way up every stitch relatching, because it comes out wider. That's the nature of tuck stitch. Also, because it comes out wider, it doesn't change the gauge of your knitting very much. In fact, it does not change it at all. The cable itself does change it. Of course, it pulls in the knitting somewhat. The cable is complete. Go ahead and keep knitting until the row counter reads either 36 or 42, and knit your few rows of waste yarn so you can go on to your next hat. The logic behind not knitting the cable all the way to the top of the gathered crown is it would get lost in the gathers. My strip of knitting is getting a little out of hand, so I'm off to search for a box that'll fit under the table to keep it corralled. For those knitting on other makes of machine, the only things you would need to know are how to knit a row back from holding position, because I do it a lot when cabling to save stress, as you saw me do. On the Singer Studio family of machines, that is that side lever all the way forward. On Brothers, it's the NH button pushed to N. This video series is loosely based on my Stripping for Charity book, and we're covering the kind of techniques that are shown in that book. If a written book interests you, there is a link in the program notes. More hats to come. See you soon.